Bruce Bochy said yesterday, we've got to get off this 2-run thing. Good news. They did. Bad news. They scored 1. Uh-oh. We got Eric Nadel here to try and help us understand all of it. It's the DLLS Rangers podcast. Look at that fantastic picture of Eric Nadel. Is that from when you went into the Big Boy Hall of Fame or the Rangers Hall of Fame?
That's the Big Boy Hall of Fame.
That is the
Ranger Hall of Fame. I don't think I had a tie on.
No tie for the Ranger Hall of Fame.
That was my Mr. Metz tie, by the way. Omar Minaya gave me that tie.
Wow.
To wear in Cooperstown because he knew I grew up as a Mets fan.
That's awesome.
It's
That's
a
fantastic.
yellow tie that has Mr. Met all over it. Omar knew that when I was a kid, my favorite Met was Mr. Met.
That's
and
so
my
great.
goal was to meet Mr. Met, which I eventually did at a Tug McGraw autograph signing. I was much more excited about meeting
Mr. Met than Tug McGraw. Eric Nadel is our guest. It's the first time we've had a Hall of Famer in these hallowed halls, and he's a 2-time Hall of Famer. He's in the Rangers Hall of Fame, but when we say the big boy, it's the National Baseball Hall of Fame. Eric won the Ford Frick Award in 2014,
right?
Yeah, in 14.
It's a pretty good class you went in with there on the other side too.
Yeah.
Greg Maddux was in that one.
Yeah, it was a great class.
Maddux, Frank Thomas, Tom Glavine, and the 3 managers: Joe Torre, Tony La Russa, Bobby Cox.
Yep. Yeah, it was a great weekend. I had the opportunity. We went up and actually did a documentary type thing on Eric that weekend. It was awesome, but. We're thrilled to have him. We're thrilled to have you. We appreciate you chatting with us. Send questions if you'd like for the Hall of Fame voice of summer around here and the voice of the Texas Rangers, Eric Nadel. We've got the Prophet over there doing what he normally does and doing it so well, Jeff Wilson, John Radigan, and Eric Nadel. So we were just talking about this off the air, and I wanted to bring this up early anyway, Eric, but the Little League home run. I said in one of the little notes I write on our to tease the fact that you're on the show that Eric Nadel has seen it all. Had you seen it as a walk-off, a Little League home run like that?
Oh yeah, I saw it for Kings Highway Savings Bank against Monaco Cleaners in 1960, I believe it was, maybe 61.
Yeah. That's the last time.
That was it. Yeah.
Oh man, you do see it. You do see it a lot. My daughter, God bless her, had 2 softball games last night, and the catcher can't get it back to the pitcher half the time, and if it gets past her, runner on third. That's how the winning run scored last night. Yeah. And I'm sure with girls sometimes there might even be tears after something like that. You were on the flight. Were there tears?
I think by then everybody was no longer completely stunned, so it was pretty much like any other flight coming home. But we were so stunned in the booth. I actually asked Matt at one point after recapping the play, did that really happen?
Jeez, it did.
It did. And that's one of those things, too. It's like from the perspective of an announcer, a play-by-play announcer, it's like the least likely thing. Like it's the thing you expect perhaps the least is that type of play.
Yeah, and that sometimes makes for the best call.
Yeah.
And then, how you react to it is always pretty interesting. I went back and listened, and after it, in addition to saying, did that really happen, I said, kids, don't try this at home.
Yes.
And then, of course, the next day,
your
kids were trying it at home.
Yep. It's not easy for kids. It should have been easier. When we talked to Boch about it yesterday, Eric, he was saying, everybody sort of it wasn't any lack of effort or any, mind fart or anything like that. Luke Jackson, just yanked the throw, and then he liked Berger trying to get the runner at third because of course you'd like to get that guy out so you don't have a runner at third, nobody or no, runner at third, nobody.
The first pitch of the inning.
Yeah. So anyway, that's
it was guys trying to do too much, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's definitely a thing, and in fact, that's one of the topics we want to get to first with you and with everybody in the chat and all that is just again the continuing struggles of this offense, which, as I mentioned, got a whole run last night. So I saw somebody tweeted out the Rangers this year in 2025 are averaging 3 runs a game. The Stars in 2025 averaged 3.35 goals a game.
Oh, man.
So, as a former hockey announcer, you can appreciate that baseball teams are supposed to score a little bit more than hockey teams. But Jeff had a chance to talk yesterday with Donnie Ecker.
I did.
And let's have you kind of filled Eric in on what Donnie said, and let's get reaction.
He was very open to the meeting. He said, I'm not shy about this. When we're struggling, I want to be out front. And so there's some accountability there. And he talked about what's wrong with the team. They were second to last in walks in all of baseball and had the highest chase rate in all of baseball. And he said, you can't win doing that. And he said you'd have to have 7 300 hitters to be able to do that and then he said, okay, we had 10 hits the other day against the Giants, but none of them left the yard. And so we weren't getting the timely hits. And he said, when somebody walks, batting averages go up. It just creates problems for the other team. So they had a long meeting as we were coming into the clubhouse. The hitters were coming out. Poor timing on our meeting,
or maybe perfect timing for the hitters.
Exactly. But anyway, that's what, and he said that's kind of what the theme was. We talked about at spring training. This is the offense we want to be. Be a tough out. Don't chase. Draw walks. Put pressure on the pitcher, and they've gotten completely away from that. So I think they were hoping that was a reset button. They did walk twice last night, including a leadoff walk in the 9th. But I kind of looked at the numbers, and it's like Jake Berger has 2 walks and 96 plate appearances. His 2.2% walk rate is 4th worst in the big leagues. Josh Young has now 3 walks in 60 and 70 plate appearances, let's say. It's just amazing. And like Adol's good year in 23. His chase rate was 29.3%. Well, now he's 45.2, and there's only one guy that's in baseball that's worse than that. And so you saw it in the 6th inning, when Peterson leads off the triple. Boy, here comes Adolis. All he's got to do is sneeze on the ball, and a run's going to score. And he chases 3 balls that were out of the handballs. They weren't even competitive pitches, and that's the deal. Opposing teams know that. They're making the Rangers get themselves out. And so, Donnie said, we know what's in front of us. Everybody's ready to work and has been working and wants to get better. And it's just a matter of doing it. And after a month, he said, it's really time to go. So he was upbeat, which is good. And again, he said, anytime this happens, don't be afraid to talk to me. I was like, well, I'm not afraid to talk to you, Donnie.
Yeah.
But you're never, he's hard. He's a hard guy to track down because he is always at the cage or in the.
He's busy. Yeah.
So anyway, they're at least talking about, they have a plan. It seems like maybe it didn't get executed last night, but the Sears guy stinking owns him. Unbelievable.
He does. He does. Just an totally average major league starting pitcher.
Yeah.
Left-hander who, for whatever reason, they cannot pick up that high fastball that he throws. Chris Woodward used to talk about the vertical approach angle. He's got the vertical approach angle thing going. And, for me, there's another major problem that's not really being discussed enough, which is the 2-strike approach.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the ability to make contact when you need to just make contact.
Right.
Cutting down on the swing or whatever. The contrast was so stark in San Francisco when the Giants had the opportunity to win a game. And Patrick Bailey came up there and took a half swing and just punched the ball to right and won the ball game.
Right.
All he's trying to do is make sure that he gets the bat on the ball, and did so. And the Rangers seemed completely incapable of going to that approach when necessary.
Mm-hmm.
I understand you want to slug most of the time, but you better have the ability to not slug and just make contact when the situation calls for it. As something that Buster Posey was preaching all spring with the Giants, talking to the people who cover the Giants. And, some other teams have gone to that. My guess is now that Clint Hurdle is the hitting coach in Colorado, that they'll probably be going along those lines. And, there's a little bit of a return to that now from the everybody slugs approach that we've seen the last few years. But in the case of the Rangers, there have been so many games because they're playing so many close games that with a different approach, a different two-strike approach, things could have been drastically different.
For sure. And I think on that road trip you were just on, there were opportunities for Garcia in that A series. And not to pick on Adolis, but he's kind of easy to pick on right now, where it's just like, and that's the thing. Like in spring training, the storyline was, well, he's got this two-strike approach now. We need him to find the right combination to do it. He needs to slug, but he just is just and like I think of Adrian Beltre. Adrian Beltre could just hit any ball and put any ball.
Yep.
And he would do that a lot of times with two strikes. How many two strikes hits did he have that were just through the hole there between first and second? The guy could hit.
Yeah.
And I don't know that these guys know how to hit.
Right. And you wonder if this is a generation of guys who basically grew up with the true outcome sort of coaching approach, right? Not just when they got to the professional leagues, but even before that. It's like hit a home run or strike out, so it's hard to, you almost have to retrain the brain for some of these guys.
Yeah, and I don't know how you do it, but clearly it has to be an emphasis that comes from the top, as in the case of the Giants. And I think, there's a reason they're averaging close to 5 runs a game with a lineup that when you look at it, you go, what?
Right.
They're averaging 5 runs a game? And look at our lineup and they're averaging 3? How can that be?
Exactly. I thought the Cubs have continued to do it, but that Cubs series, the Tyler Mahle start notwithstanding, they were just putting the ball in play. It's as simple as it was, and it forces the defense. The Rangers made a couple mistakes, but they were just hitting little lawn darts out there, and they weren't. They didn't. I don't think they had a home run in this series, and they still scored a pile of runs.
It's an old school approach, though, right? This shortening up,
absolutely.
This whole thing, and it analytics in some ways, right, have made us look at old school as like, passe, gone, wrong. Look, these are still things that can help you win baseball games, and even trying to get a bunt down and popping it up to the catcher. Everybody's got to be able to get a bunt, and I know bunting is not easy. I wouldn't want to try to stand there with a 100-mile-an-hour fastball coming at me, but they need to know how to do this.
Yeah, it's situational hitting, and that's completely different from slugging. And some guys can do it, some guys can't, and you have to work at it.
Right,
you really have to work at it.
Yeah, I don't watch batting practice like I used to.
I
figure I'd seen enough of it, but it used to be, they'd hit to right field, and they'd call a situation, get them over,
lay down 5 bunts.
Yeah, just things like that. And I don't know that they do that because I don't want to get close to the cage or stay downstairs that long.
Were you watching yesterday? I'm sure you were closely enough to know they used the pitching machine at batting practice yesterday, and I felt like they were trying to get a little more velo. Right, it felt like those pitches were coming in a little faster than any BP coach would throw.
Well, and it was set up on the left side, so they don't have any left-handed BP throwers. But they have these machines now where you can program them to simulate where the arm slot, where the ball will come out. Jacob deGrom was talking to me about it a few weeks ago, and he's like, somebody can go into the batting cage and take 100 at-bats off of my arm slot.
Wow.
Yeah, and so I don't know if that was what they were doing, but
they were raking. By the way, I don't watch either, but I did yesterday. And every time Bobby Wilson holds the ball up here and then he drops it in the slot, and I was watching Adolis in particular. He was hitting the ball all over the place. But
Leote had a good BP. I did stay downstairs yesterday to talk to Connie, but Leote had a great BP.
Yeah. So anyway, it's so confounding. Have you seen an offense that you remember, Eric, that, again, we see the names, we know the numbers, we know the history, that is almost this much of a confounding, this much of a disappointment?
How about the 2000 24 Rangers.
Well, yeah, there you go. Yeah, there you
don't
go.
have to look that. Don't have to look that far.
Don't have to look
be
far.
honest with you.
You're onto something.
Yeah, great point. So anyway, that's that. We've got to talk pitching too. We had a chance to talk to a Ranger who is back in the Major League clubhouse yesterday. We'll share that conversation and keep talking with Eric Nadel as we continue with the DLLS Rangers podcast.
Eric was just telling us about a little barbecue place he stumbled on in Sacramento. Well, there's a big barbecue place coming up this weekend. It's called AT&T Stadium. The Lone Star Smokeout, Eric. It starts Friday, runs through Sunday, featuring barbecue, country music, and then malted beverages. I mean, it's really as Texas as it gets. $68 for a GA ticket. Kids 10 and under get free. DLLS, we're going to be giving away tickets every day, so stay tuned to us for that. But basically what you do is you show up and you eat barbecue. There's 14 people, 14 teams from across the country who are going to be trying to win the title. And you get to choose for yourself who has the best barbecue. And then, it's the Derby. The Kentucky Derby is Saturday.
Yeah.
So I'm going to guess you're going to be able to find them in Julep. Cinco de Mayo is Monday, so they're going to celebrate it Sunday at the Lone Star Smokeout. And then Cody Jinks, among others. Eric's a big music guy. He's probably heard of all the acts that are going to be there. So kids 10 under to get in free. Don't miss this out. Get your tickets at LoneStarSmokeout.com.
Yeah, we encourage you to do that. It should be a fun weekend out there around the entertainment district, as they call it, in Arlington. And so there's no doubt it's going to be sunny because it's Texas, so you'll need your sunglasses. And, of course, my favorites, and should be yours, are these Shady Rays. Shady Rays are fantastic sunglasses that are polarized. You see some of the styles available to you on the screen there. They've got lots and lots of styles, lots and lots of colors. And I really like the color fast lenses that are polarized and feel really good. They're relatively inexpensive compared to all the major brands of sunglasses, and they're almost indestructible. I'm really hard on sunglasses, haven't broken mine yet. Had them for almost a year now. So go to ShadyRays.com, get 35% off your first pair. You won't believe how low the price is once you apply that 35% off with the code DLLS. So before we get into the pitching, Eric, barbecue. Have you done one of the? I've never done, and I may try one of these this weekend, the Lone Star Smokeout, where there's the competition and you kind of sample every one.
Yeah, they have a big one in Cleveland every year. It used to be the biggest in the country. I don't know if it is anymore. But we were lucky enough, I would guess it's probably been 20 years ago by now, to be there back-to-back years for that barbecue competition. And I went both years and totally loved it. And actually was exposed to some barbecue places that I then was able to visit in future visits, because there were places from Amarillo, there were places from Lubbock, there were some places from East Texas, and I got to experience them. I remember there was one actually from New York City and one from San Francisco that I really liked, all of which I've now gone to the restaurants.
I was just going to say, yeah, that's fantastic. Eric's a big barbecue guy. So, and when you go, you must sample several different stops?
Yeah, as many as you can. And I'm not one to take a bite and throw the rest of it away. I'll eat the entire rib or the entire slice of brisket, which are the two. They for me are the two ways to basically judge.
That's
a barbecue
your baseline.
place.
Yeah,
it's nice if they have burnt ends. It's nice if they have some form of poultry. But basically, the pork rib and brisket are the
100%.
Yeah, no doubt about that.
They're the go-to.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about pitching. And the guy we saw yesterday was Dane Dunning, who has been recalled, and they optioned Caleb Bosley. Caleb Bosley. It was sad to see him. It's always sad to see the guy packing up over there.
And he pitched well, too.
Right.
Especially the last couple of outings.
You need a fresh arm.
Yep.
Yeah.
They needed
it's a good thing he had options. I wasn't sure if he had options or not after being a minor league free agent, basically.
Yeah.
So that's good. And then, Daniel Robert, who's, an old AAA pitcher. He's 30 years old. He got designated for assignment. But he's been so good the last couple of years. He's been on the 40-man for several years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's that name kind of came out of nowhere for the DFA for me. Yeah.
It did.
And that'll be curious to see if he clears waivers or not.
Right.
For sure.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, for sure. And so Dane, he said, and you were at spring training some, Eric, Jeff was there too, but he said he saw it coming, that he wasn't surprised by his demotion. I don't know that I was necessarily surprised. I was surprised they DFA'd him at the time that they demoted him to the minors.
Yeah, and I guess the salary was an impediment to anybody claiming him when he was available for any team to grab on waivers.
Right, and then he was outright released, so he could have elected free agency, but he would have had to forfeit his salary.
Right,
and it's $2.66 million, so he made a business decision there. But the first 2 starts at AAA weren't very good, but he's been a lot better. And then he said he feels better. He looked very good yesterday.
He did
better than he did in spring training.
Looks thin,
which is in shape.
Yeah.
And I know that was an issue last year. He was out of shape and fatigued, and but I think he was humbled. I think the game humbled him a little bit. He said he doesn't take anything for granted. Even every year after his great year in 23, he went to spring training in 24. Is like, I've got to make the team. But I think I don't know what opportunities he's going to have. He still has options and can be optioned, but he did so well for this team in 23, and I know Bruce Bochy remembers that stuff. But at the same time, it's also a performance-driven industry, and if you're not performing, you're not gonna hang around. But I hope he gets a couple chances to pitch and see what it looks like.
It is surprising when you've got a guy who was the pitcher of the year
twice.
Yeah, and most recently in 2023, right? The World Series championship team. He's the pitcher of the year, and he was, but he kind of lost it, right? He saw it coming, and kind of saw, especially at the end of last year. So did all of us.
No doubt. It was shocking. And then in spring training, he just did not look good at all.
Oh,
and I know it's deceiving to go by spring training results. In Arizona, it's hard for pitchers. Yeah. Some pitchers just don't get their breaking pitches to break. But still, in a competition for jobs, that's what you have to go by.
Yep. Right. Yeah.
If he had a good year last year, it's a different story. Then you have a bad year and you say, okay, well, we know what this guy can do. He did it for us last year.
Yeah. So with regard to this staff, everybody I think was really looking forward to an opportunity to see Jacob deGrom pitch, for a full season, and off to a start now. It's not a full season yet, but has he done things yet that make you go, I'm really glad, we get to see him? He's not quite right, it doesn't seem.
No,
yet.
He's still not locating his pitches consistently, not making pitches, getting hit by the bottom of the batting order last time. That should never happen when he's at his best. And, he just has made far too many mistakes, which is where the home runs have come from. Mm-hmm. But I still love watching him pitch. In fact, I'm not working tonight. I'm off tonight, but I'm going to the game.
Are you really?
Yeah, because Jacob's pitching. I'm going to the game. I don't want to miss a Jacob deGrom start.
Yeah, where do you sit when you go?
I haven't sat in the stands a whole lot, but I'm going to sit right below the broadcast booth.
Are you?
Yeah. I want to have access to the booth. I want to be able to talk to my guys.
I don't blame you.
When I need to.
Yeah.
And I could really just turn around between innings. I'm going to sit in the last row right below the booth. As much as I complain about where the booth is sometimes,
that's odd. Yeah,
that's where I'm going to sit tonight.
Yeah.
But my guess is I will venture down during the game, with that press pass and wander around the lower deck. When deGrom's on the mound for a couple of innings, I'll be up there close watching those pitches move.
Yeah,
I think the start against the Dodgers when he made more mechanical changes, he was throwing the ball harder, and and he talked in spring training about not wanting to intentionally trying to throw at 97, 96, 98 instead of 101, 102. Mm-hmm. But God, I'd like to see that. And he says he has it whenever he wants it. Well, it seems like there are times when you should be wanting it a little more. But he also, if he doesn't feel good in his mechanics, he doesn't want to do it.
Right. It was gratifying to see him in that game, jump 2 miles an hour. Mm-hmm. And I asked him the next day whether he was, ultra psyched because it was the Dodgers and the crowd was electric. And he said, no, it was just a matter of my mechanics being good. When my mechanics are good, I get a couple of extra miles an hour on it without really trying to.
That's amazing. It's just amazing. And to Jeff's point about having, if he really does have that, and if the mechanics are working, we all remember seeing Justin Verlander in the 8th or 9th inning pull out 100, pull out triple digits, and you've been like, the whole game we've been watching you, and now you got 100?
Yeah. John Lowe once told me the Hall of Fame writer from the Detroit Free Press, when I asked about Verlander, and he said, yeah, Verlander told me that I cruise at 96, but I've got 99 in my hip pocket at all times.
That's amazing.
And you're right. He would just wheel it out when he needed it.
Yeah. Even if and nowadays nobody pitches in the 9th anyway. But
yeah.
How about that? So Eovaldi tonight against a bullpen day for the Swinging A's, who are without JT Ginn, who's on the injured list, who the Rangers saw last week. So who are they starting?
Let's take a look at that pitching matchup, Prophet, and we'll
look
is it Gomez? Is it a Gomez?
Lopez.
Okay.
Yeah. There's Lopez. So bullpen game. I guess they didn't have to use a ton of relievers last night. No, I thought they went a little early. I thought Sears might have gotten them through the 6th at least. But whatever.
Especially the way he's dominating this team.
They'll be in pretty good shape. And then bullpen games always seem to give the Rangers a lot of trouble, except for in Game 4 of the World Series. That was the one bullpen game that seemed to work out pretty well for the Rangers.
Fine.
Yeah. So I don't know. It seems like advantage Rangers. I don't think the A's are going to score more than a couple runs.
That's the amazing thing. I mean, the way the Rangers have been pitching, Eric, it's just and it's so unlike what we're used to. You've been around since '79. I've been around since '90, and the Rangers just don't win games by pitching. And the 15 or 16 that they've won so far have mostly been because of pitching.
Yeah, we're living in bizarro world.
Yeah,
where the Rangers, can pitch like crazy and can't hit. It can't last.
Right.
And we keep saying it can't last.
Right.
And I go in there to interview Bruce Bochy every day in his office, and he's very superstitious about where we set up, where we sit in the office, so that if we win when I'm sitting in the chair on the right and he's sitting in the chair on the left, the next day when I go in there, I know just sit down in the chair on the right.
Interesting.
So that happened in San Francisco. We won the first night. I was sitting in the chair on the right in his office. So the next day I come in, I sit on the chair on the right, and the Rangers lose in the walk-off, the Patrick Bailey walk-off. Yeah. And I went in the next day, and I didn't know which chair to sit in.
Yeah.
And Boch comes in, and I said, Boch, I didn't know what chair to sit in. And he said, sit in any chair that'll get us more than 2 runs. Said, never mind the superstition.
Yeah.
Sit in any chair.
By the way, you didn't find the right chair.
No, it hasn't happened yet. And apparently Matt, who did the show last night, didn't find the right chair either.
No. He found a worse chair.
Yeah, that's even worse. Yeah. But you know what? Nathan Eovaldi was such a big acquisition, reacquisition in the offseason. And he's another one. He's just fun to watch. He's such a bulldog.
He's a bulldog. He's so great at knowing how to pitch, making adjustments. We thought the last time he pitched, we thought he was way off in the first couple of innings. Yeah. Just wasn't getting it together. You could tell from his facial expressions and his body language, he was getting frustrated at his inability to get the ball we wanted. And then by the 4th inning, it was World Series Eovaldi again.
Yeah.
He had made whatever adjustment needed to be made, and he was back to doing that thing he does.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Was it the '83 team that has the club record for ERA? But was dreadful.
Led the ERA.
Yeah,
led the league in ERA.
Right,
and were somewhat disappointing offensively.
Yeah,
although for much of the season they hit like crazy. Doug Rader was the manager. Was his first year, and then they had the typical Ranger post All-Star game collapse.
Okay.
That was the year that Rader and Tony La Russa got into a war of words because Doug claimed the White Sox, who were in first place in our division, were winning ugly. And winning ugly became the theme line for the White Sox that year.
Yeah, that's right.
And they actually won the division winning ugly.
Yeah.
Thank you, Doug Rader, for giving that to them. But, the Rangers were winning by pitching great. Their defense was fantastic that year. That was the year they had Bucky Dent and Wayne Tollison up the middle. They had Buddy Bell and Pete O'Brien on the corners.
Yeah.
And their infield, they gave up nothing. They were fantastic.
And who was pitching? Who were the pitchers?
Oh, they had Charlie Huff.
Okay.
They had Mike Smithson and John Butcher. I remember those two guys.
Yeah. That's pretty good recall from '83, right there.
Yeah, I'm kind of running out of
42 years ago. Eric. You're good.
Long time ago. We are also gonna tax Eric's memory a little bit more here as we come back. We're getting into some more of the fun history of Eric Nadel's Hall of Fame career. We'll also give you an opportunity to find out when his big birthday bash is this year. I hope you've been to it in the past.
Misty, aka Leon, he's already asking about it.
We got details coming next. It's the DLLS Rangers podcast. Yeah, so I got a text from Nicole today.
Oh,
and she's suggesting that I allow myself and get myself these text alerts from Game Time, which I think is a good idea because there are so many things happening in this area that you can find on Game Time. And some of the bands like Eric is going to have at his birthday bash, which we'll talk about here in a minute, are available on Game Time. You can find tickets to almost any venue in the Metroplex, as well as the largest venues in the Metroplex. The Stars, of course, are big right now. The Rangers games you can find there. So Game Time's just a great app. You can actually see the seat that you are going to purchase. They have price guarantees, and they'll actually refund if there's an issue with the event. So Game Time is a great app. We encourage you to go to gametime.com. If you do that and use the code DLLS, you get $20 off your first purchase.
I don't know if you guys saw this last week, but we have some news to share we're pretty proud of. We are now partners with the Big Brothers and Big Sisters of America. It's all the ALLCITY networks, not just the DLLS, but our other venues as well. And it's to us and to our headquartered people in Denver. It's more about sports, and we want to be able to give back. And this is going to give us an opportunity to do that. The partnership kicked off last week, but it doesn't stop there. We'll be working year-round to support Big Brothers and Big Sisters through fundraising, content, events, and even opportunities for our team, and maybe some of you to get directly involved. I believe Jesse has already volunteered to become a Big Brother.
Yes, he has.
Yeah, so we're excited to support youth mentorship. That really makes a difference. You can learn more and see how to get involved at bbs.org/ALLCITY.
Yep, that's a great idea. We'd love you to do that. Tom Grieve, when we've done some stuff with Big Brothers and Big Sisters before, talks about his days at Big Brothers, Big Sisters when he was growing up in Massachusetts. I can't remember that little town. Do you remember that, Eric? Pittsfield, that's it. Pittsfield, Massachusetts. So anyway, very good, good stuff, and we appreciate you being a part of that. So Eric has been around this organization since 1979. So this, as a Texas team, they were only 7 years old when you got here, right?
Yeah, I got here in '76 to broadcast hockey for the Dallas Blackhawks. So I actually witnessed a couple of seasons as a fan. 2.5 seasons, really, half of '76, then '77 and '78. I was going to games regularly at Old Arlington Stadium.
Wow!
Sitting on those metal bleachers sometimes
in the heat.
Not on day games.
Okay.
But I was struggling to find shade like everybody else was.
Even at night,
for those Sunday afternoon games. And there weren't many because they mostly were playing Sunday night games back then.
Yeah, of course.
That's right.
And so as you're a hockey announcer down here, are you dreaming of maybe someday I could be a part of this Rangers broadcast, or how does that come about?
Yeah, the New York Rangers. All I wanted to do was be a hockey announcer. That was it. Really, from the time I was in high school and heard Marv Albert doing the New York Ranger games, I was telling people, when I grow up, I'm going to be the voice of the Rangers, and I meant the New York Rangers. But I love baseball. I listened to a million games. I went to games constantly when I was a kid. I played it until freshman year in college. But I never really wanted to broadcast it because I thought it was too slow.
Yeah.
I had a chance when I was in high school to sit in with the Chicago White Sox announcers, a game at the old Comiskey Park. It was a doubleheader. It was in August. They were pretty far out of first place, and they looked bored. They sounded bored, and it seemed like a really easy job. It seemed really hard. And I thought, well, these hockey games I've been listening to, they move fast and they're exciting, and that would be a lot more fun. So, that's kind of what I concentrated on. And when I went to college, we didn't broadcast baseball. We broadcast football, hockey, and soccer. So I broadcast football and hockey and felt that hockey was, that was the future. The NHL was expanding. The WHA had just come into existence. So there seemed to be a lot of jobs opening up.
Yeah. You had one job in Muskegon, Michigan?
My first job was in Muskegon, Michigan, a little factory town of 40,000. And I spent 3 years there.
Oh, wow.
And in fact, I thought if I couldn't get out of there after 3 years, I probably was not very good. And so I started taking the law school admission test and applying to law schools.
Wow. Oh, wow. I'm being from Michigan. I spent 3 years in Muskegon one day. So yeah, it's not. So it's not a great place.
Did you see Gretzky in the WHA?
I did. I never actually saw a WHA game in person.
Okay, all right.
No, I was in the International Hockey League, and then what saved me from going to law school was I got a job in Oklahoma City, which was AAA hockey. It was the Toronto Maple Leafs AAA team, and that kept me from actually going to law school, where I would have been probably a very unhappy attorney for the rest of my life.
And then how long were you in OKC?
Was there for 1 year, and then that team and the Dallas Blackhawks merged.
Okay.
The Toronto Maple Leafs and Chicago Blackhawks decided to share a minor league franchise, put it in Dallas, and I was lucky enough that the PR guy and broadcaster Frank Falesi with the Dallas Blackhawks decided to retire from hockey and open his own PR firm. And that allowed me to come down here and basically take that job.
Okay.
Yeah, that's excellent. Very fun. That's sort of the history of how Eric Nadel got here. And then so many memories and moments that you have here. Obviously, winning the World Series is at the top. But, what else is sort of on the Mount Rushmore of things you recall here?
Well, the Nolan Ryan 2 no-hitters.
Yeah.
And the 5,000th strikeout, which was the first time I got to make a big call.
Right.
Working with Mark Holtz all those years, I did the 4th, 5th, and 6th inning. And then if there was an 11th inning, I did the 11th inning, and whatever odd number innings were in extra innings. But that day, the 5,000th just happened to fall into my innings, so I got a chance to do it. Nolan's 300th win was big. And then we had the Kenny Rogers perfect game. And again, Mark got to call the 27th out of that, but that was a big thrill. For me, calling Josh Hamilton's 4 home run game was a very big deal.
Yeah.
And maybe even bigger than that, a thing that's never happened before or since, the Rangers' 30-run game in Baltimore.
Right.
Where they had 7 RBIs from the number 9 hitter, Ramon Vasquez, including a 3-run homer in the 9th that got them to 30. That stands out. That's pretty high up there for me.
Yeah.
That's a record that might never get broken.
It gets threatened every once in a while, right? A couple of years ago, wasn't it the Mets who were, or maybe they're on the wrong side of it. The Braves against the Mets, maybe.
Were threatening?
The Braves, I think, had 27.
Yeah, didn't we get a 26 recently here?
24 of the Reds.
Okay.
It was a 24-2 game last week.
It gets every once in a while it'll pop up.
Yeah.
But that was the year before I took the beat, but I remember those names because they carried over into the next season. Like Ramon Vasquez and Travis Metcalf.
And the really weird thing about that, it was the first game of a doubleheader.
Yeah.
And Washa decided that he was going to play the bench guys in the first game of the doubleheader so that he wouldn't be tempted to make the regulars play both games if they happened to lose the first game. Mm-hmm. So he had all of the normal bench guys in the lineup. And when he handed his lineup card to Rudy Jaramillo, the hitting coach, Rudy looked at it and he went, Wash, this is the kind of lineup that gets a manager fired. And next thing you knew, they scored 30 runs. With Travis Metcalf hit a grand slam, and Vasquez drove in 7. Saltalamacchia, I think, drove in 6. They had 13 RBIs from the last 2 guys in the batting order. And so that's the beauty of baseball.
Isn't that amazing?
You never know.
Okay, and was that the series that it was a doubleheader because there had been like a train derailment with cyanide or something?
That wasn't the train derailment doubleheader, but that was the beauty too. And then the amazing thing was, so the Rangers win the game 30-3. Wes Littleton gets a save by pitching the last 3 innings. And the Rangers, after 3 innings, were losing 3-0. Wow. They actually scored 30 runs in the last 6 innings. And Then in the second game of the doubleheader, the Rangers won, I think, 8-6, and the game took longer than the first game.
Did it really?
Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
the game time was longer. So we were flying back to Texas to play the next night, and the doubleheader was just, one of the longest ones the Rangers had ever played without any extra innings involved.
Sure.
And then we got home at 5 in the morning or something like that, and had to play the next night.
Did you dadgummit, carry on.
So did you let's get to your big birthday bash, because you've been doing this now for, it's got to be 12, 15 years.
This is the 13th year.
13. Okay, yeah. And it started at the Kessler. In fact, it's been at the Kessler every year up until last year, right?
Right.
Yeah. And it's great. It's really fun. You'll see memorabilia and all that type of thing there for sale via the auction, like you don't get anywhere else. And Eric is a big music aficionado. And so anyway, this year it's at
the Longhorn Ballroom, which is in its 75th year.
Wow.
And is owned by the same people who own the Kessler,
Okay.
so that the sound is exquisite. Everything about it is first class. It's almost like a music museum in addition to being a venue, because they have shadow boxes with, James Brown's suit from when he played there, and, stuff that Bob Wills had, who was actually one of the owners of the Longhorn years ago, Tammy Wynette, the Sex Pistols, all these famous people who played there, memorabilia from those shows.
You don't hear them in the same sentence very often.
And then, I get to pick the bands, which is kind of how the whole thing started. On my birthday, I get to pick the bands I want to see. And of course, it goes to a great cause, the Grant Halliburton Foundation, which provides mental health education programs in schools. But this year I've selected, one of the most fun party bands I've ever seen, the Shiny Ribs. They are from Austin, and anybody who's seen them knows how great their show is. Big band with brass and backup singers. They're just wonderful. And then to open the show, we've gotten the Secret Sisters, which is an acoustic duo from Alabama that not only makes gorgeous harmonies, but they're totally hilarious in their between songs banter. So that's the show. It's May 29th at the Longhorn Ballroom. There are tickets on sale already at longhornballroom.com. And don't wait, because the seating is limited. It's a very big room. There's tons of standing room, and it's actually a great room to have a standing room and just kind of wander around. There are 2 or 3 different bars will be open that night. Huge silent auction and a live auction as well. You get a chance to browse all those items. And one of the things we've been doing regularly there is auctioning off lunches with local media celebrities at fine restaurants. You can buy lunch or dinner with me, for example, at Neighborhood Services.
Yep.
Or you can go to dinner with Bruce Bochy at Nick and Sam's.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Wow. Things like that. Dale Hansen actually has given us an item where 6 people can go have dinner at Dale's house, and he will send a limo to pick them up and take them home.
Wow.
So a lot of really cool stuff, in addition to autographed memorabilia. Will Johnson, the lead singer in Centromatic, who now plays with Jason Isbell in the 400 unit, is also an artist, and he paints baseball players. He has painted a portrait of Elvis Andrews for us that Elvis is going to sign this weekend.
Wow.
And we're going to auction off. So a lot of really cool stuff. And the auction will go online the week before, so about May 22nd. And people, if they follow my Twitter, which is Nadel, E-R, Nadel Air, or my Instagram, which is Rangers Voice, I'll be posting all that stuff, when it goes live a week beforehand.
So, Leon, I hope he answered all of your questions.
I bet he did. And
Leon says he won something. It's earlier in the chat, but he said he
You won an auction item?
Finally going to be able to claim my charity lunch experience I won won at a past auction. Oh, he's doing it tomorrow. So apparently, do you have a lunch tomorrow?
No, it could be somebody else.
I don't think I do. It's probably somebody else.
Yeah, one of the other celebs, though, does. So very cool. And it's really fun. And you'll see
Emily Jones for Leon tomorrow.
Yeah.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, Emily's going to Righteous Foods in Fort Worth.
Okay, yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, you'll see people right, that because you've seen them on TV or you've seen them at a baseball game in a baseball stadium at Eric's event every year. I mean, there's generally quite a few people that are, well known. So anyway, we encourage you to do that, and it's a great cause too, and that's the reason Eric started doing this was for the cause. So we've got more coming up. It's our cleanup segment. We'll let Eric weigh in on all these things as we continue talking with the Hall of Fame voice of the Texas Rangers, Eric Nadel, on the DLLS Rangers podcast. Yeah, so Eric asked a very good question when he walked in. He said, now that the Dallas Wings are coming in, are you guys going to do a show for the Wings? And it's in the infancy, but we're definitely talking about that. And this shirt is our Dallas Wings shirt. We only have one Dallas Wings shirt, but if you go to the store.allcitynetwork.com, you will see that this shirt is listed under the Dallas Wings. We have them for all of our teams. We have TCU still, Jeff?
We have TCU stuff.
TCU shirts, SMU shirts. And so anyway, we encourage you to go to allcitynetwork.com to get your T-shirts today. You have other things available to you too there as far as merchandise goes. They're super well made. They're comfortable. They're very washable, and we just think they're really cool. And if you wear them, we'll know it's you, and we'll kind of give you that knowing nod. So store.allcitynetwork.com to get your merchandise from All City today.
I do have on the Die Hard shirt that was just on the screen. Just I'm covered up because as we know, I get chilly. Anyway, you get a free shirt when you become a diehard at DLLS. And dang it, if you missed our sale that we were running the last couple of weeks, I'm sorry. But $79.99 is still a hell of a deal. You get 20% off of all of our events. You get the free shirt, like I was saying, and you get to be in the cool crowd and read all of our stuff, not just Ranger stuff, but Cowboys, Stars, and Mavs, from writers who you know people know Clarence Hill. It's pretty funny. I was at dinner the other night in Mansfield, and I'm at the bar with my wife, and we're talking. And all of a sudden, I hear the bartender saying, "Yeah, I was talking online with Clarence Hill on Twitter, and got in a spat with Clarence about Shedeur Sanders and all this stuff." And he came over, and I said, "Hey, I work with Clarence." And he was kind of like, "Oh." I was like, "No, it's okay. I get it. Yeah. A lot of people getting spats with Clarence on Twitter.
Clarence, yeah.
But anyway, getting a splat with Clarence on or a splat on become a diehard at allcitynetwork.com/join.
Yep, that's a great idea. We appreciate you doing that very much. In this last segment of the show, Eric, we run through some of the things happening in baseball, and we'll probably try to get to some questions that our people in the chat have asked as well. But we were talking about all those RBIs and stuff that they had in the 30-run game and in the Josh Hamilton 4-home run game. Did you see what Brandon Nimmo did?
No, I didn't.
9 RBIs.
Ooh.
Yeah. In a game.
It reminds me of the Pudge Rodriguez 9 RBI game in Seattle.
Yeah.
And he had 9 RBIs in his first 3 times up.
That's and he got his 9 in a 3-inning stint as well.
Yeah. Because they said the last guy to do it was Sammy Sosa.
Yeah.
In like 2002, I think it was. So it'd been a while. And I think Nimmo came into the game with like 7 RBIs. And then he more than doubled it. Yeah. That's baseball.
No, I thought you were going to bring up the Eugenio Suarez 4-home run game.
Well, it definitely had me thinking about Josh.
No doubt. Yeah. And that was, didn't he have a double too?
That was Hamilton's one non-homer was a double off the center field ball.
But I thought Suarez did too.
He had a single.
Single. Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah. But it's amazing when you see the ball like that, and and it's also amazing. And I think you brought it up during the game in Baltimore that night. Why do you keep pitching to him?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you totally expected him to hit another home run when he came up looking for the 4th. You would have been surprised if he didn't, as locked in as he was. I mean, he looked like that home run derby thing in New York that he had done.
Well, and he hit it off of Darren O'Day, who had been a teammate of Hamilton's, and Darren after the game was like, I just threw it right down the. He was so mad at himself, but I haven't seen a perfect game. We almost did. 2013, almost did. That's the one thing I haven't seen in baseball. That's like, I said World Series might be what sends me to the showers, but I'm hanging on to perfect game now.
And the thing that I haven't done is call the 27th out of a Ranger perfect game or no hitter.
Yeah,
because the no hitters that I did with Mark.
Yeah.
And Mark called the 27th out. I have called the 27th out of 3 no hitters against the Rangers.
Oh, boy, yeah.
Mark Burley and Corey
Musgrove
Kluber and Joe Musgrove.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Those were the first 2 I've ever covered. So
which were Musgrove and
Kluber.
Yeah.
in 21.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because the story was, Corey Kluber. Great.
I know. Yeah.
One inning for the Rangers.
We got one inning out of him, and then he comes back and just shoves, right? And throws a no-hitter, although he didn't do much after that.
No. He hung around a couple more years, but
yeah, he got a couple more.
That was a dreadful offense. But they were supposed to be dreadful.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that, I saw something on, I don't know if it was in Richie's game notes or if it was on MLB Network or something. Like the Rangers are in the midst of 6 games of 2 or fewer runs, but that 21 team had 9 straight of 3 or fewer.
Jeez.
So that was the 102 loss team, and allowed us to get Kumar Rocker the next year.
Right.
To the surprise of everybody. The thing is, 2 teams that year lost 108 games.
Isn't that amazing?
The Rangers weren't even close to the worst team.
And the Colorado Rockies right now are on pace, I believe, to win 25 games if they continue with their current winning percent. They seem to have a game 1 last night, and the Dodgers came back and beat them. It might even be down to 24 now. I haven't recalculated after that loss, but going into last night, they were on a pace to go 25 and 137.
Wow.
And we thought the White Sox 41 and 121 was bad.
Yeah, right? Clint Hurdle will turn that around, won't he?
No, poor Clint.
With all his witticisms. And
he's got a book now, which is actually really fun to read.
Is it?
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I can't remember the name of it. I've got it. And it basically is, Clint's.
Hurdleisms.
Yeah. Clint's
Hurdleisms.
Tony Barnett has a book also about his time in Japan, mostly.
Yeah, very entertaining book.
It's a very good book. He's going to come on our show next month.
Oh,
good.
Yeah. Or early June, one of the two.
Tony's a good guy.
Yeah. The book I'm reading now is Howard Bryant's biography, not autobiography, of Ricky.
Oh, really?
And it's just called Ricky. And I love it. It's, I was always fascinated by Ricky Henderson.
Oh, of course.
We saw him when he first came up with the A's. Rangers were one of the first teams to play against him. And, I've always been captivated by his personality.
Mm-hmm.
And the biography is just fascinating.
I bet.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, he's an amazing character. I remember a story about him. John Olerud played with him in Toronto.
This is
like this one, yeah. And John Olerud always wore a helmet in the field, and then they were teammates again later, I think, for the Mets. And Ricky said, "Man, I used to play with a guy who wore a helmet in Toronto too." And John's like, "Yeah, that was me."
Yeah, apparently Ricky was one of these guys, like Mickey Rivers. He didn't really know anybody's name. He wasn't really good, didn't really care. Mickey used to call everybody Gozzlehead.
Gozzlehead.
Yeah, you didn't know your name, which was almost everybody. He just called everybody Gozzlehead.
Gozzlehead was a term of affection.
Yeah, instead of calling everybody buddy, or pal, or he called him Gozzlehead.
Okay.
All right.
There you go.
All right.
Chicago White Sox have introduced their new City Connects. Did we get a pick of that, Prophet, or no? No pick. They're red.
Oh, they're like the Bulls jerseys. Yeah, they're very
picking
Bulls-like.
up on the Chicago
I have not
Bulls.
seen those.
Yeah. I know when I first saw it, I just I'm scanning by it on X, and I'm like, what the hell? Why would the White Sox do that? And then I went to MLB and saw that it's an homage to the Bulls of the 90s and all that. And they have the stripes on them and stuff like that.
Cling to the best team in NBA history as the worst team in MLB history.
That's right. Although, again, Colorado's going to have something to say about that.
Yeah. I'm from Denver. The first Rockies season was my last year of high school. And if I'm not mistaken, either opening day that season or their home opener was the same day as the fiasco in Waco. And so we were at home at my friend's house from lunch, watching both of those things. But so I was never a Rockies fan. Now my parents got season tickets, and those teams were fun to watch if you loved offense. Because Dante Bichette and
sure
Vinny Castilla and Andres Galarraga had a couple great seasons there, and could keep going and going and going with those guys, but. They have no direction now. It's like, what is this team trying to do? How do you try to win at that field? Go get the next Dante Bichette, and just load your lineup with those guys and see what happens. But yeah, my friends are just, they don't even watch anymore. It's like, God, what a waste. There's no direction. And then somebody was telling me that the Monforts, the owners, are like very involved very hands-on in the day-to-day operation, which never seems to work.
They somehow, though, have come up with the best City Connect uniforms. The green and white ones that look like the Colorado license plate. I love those.
Fantastic.
And now they've changed to a new one this year, and I love the new ones.
Oh, I'm kind of like a sunset.
Yeah, they've somehow managed to come up with, in my opinion, the two best City Connect uniforms.
Well, and the attendance is still good because they transformed right field in like a party deck. And so people still like to go to the games, but I don't think they're watching the games.
Right? Yeah, well, they're there.
I hope they're not.
They're there for other reasons, which is fine. You know, you go to Lodo and you hang out and all that stuff. Now, with regard to the City Connects, what do you think? The Rangers, of course, are done with theirs this year. Those are 3-year stints. Do you like these Peagle ones?
I'm not a fan of the black or dark
Blue.
navy pants.
Yeah, exactly.
Me too.
I just hope that the next version, they don't try and do that.
Yeah.
And then we'll see. I'm open-minded to whatever they come up with next time.
Well, it's like the Mariner City Connects, the black pants. The top's very doable.
Right.
Because it's kind of a throwback, but then the black pants, just like, come on.
Yeah, every time that they put one of those out, and again, it's not just the team. I mean, it's the Nike or whoever the manufacturer is that's significant in that decision-making process. But anyway, they seem to really like the off-color pants, and I think most of us fans, I like everything about that City Connect from here up, and the pants, I'm just like, I've never gotten used to them.
Right.
3 years in.
And they are blue.
They call it some sort of midnight blue or something. So for the first time ever on the history, it's not a long history, but it's a 9-month history of the program, we will mention the name Lin-Manuel Miranda. Who is writing a movie, he says, not a play, a movie about the Molina brothers. Benji and Yada and what's the other
Jose.
one? Jose. Yeah. He said this is a great movie. It's a made-for-Hollywood story, and he's working on a movie, and he says it'll help employ a lot of Latin actors. And I think it would be I wonder if in the movie the cycle.
Got to have the cycle.
Will be there. It's got
It has to be.
Right?
Has to be the highlight of the movie.
I think it would be. They've got...
well, somebody just asked, what's the craziest thing you've seen in the booth, Eric? And that's got to be at the top
up there.
of the damn
That's
list.
probably the most unlikely thing that I've seen in the booth. The other thing was one day in Kansas City, the Rangers in Kansas City were having a bit of a brushback beanball war. And Brian McRae had enough. And when he got hit by a pitch in like the 8th or 9th inning of the last game of the series, he dropped his bat, and instead of charging the mound, he charged the Ranger dugout to go after Kevin Kennedy, who was the Ranger manager at the time. And that was that ranked with the ball off Canseco's head.
Sure.
Yeah.
Which was a great one too, as things you weren't quite ready for.
Were you calling that inning? Do you remember?
I was calling the Canseco ball off the head thing, and it was embarrassing for me because I didn't really see it as going off his head.
Yeah.
In that old stadium in Cleveland, I'm blaming the fact that the lights weren't good. Yeah. Canseco was kind of in the shadows back there. But my radio call was, here's a fly ball to deep right, and Canseco's back. He's at the wall, and that ball is off the wall and over the wall. How'd that happen? And then we saw the replay and saw that it actually didn't go off the wall and over the wall, but off his head and over the wall.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
So I had the distinction of miscalling that one.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, at least it's memorable.
Nobody's perfect.
Nobody is perfect. Yeah.
Any other Jose Canseco.
Exactly. Yeah. Any other questions you see there, Jeff, we want to get to for Eric?
Gallagher Champ is asking about a book, not the limerick book that you've done, but like a book about your career.
No, we haven't done one yet. I've thought about it. I'm basically too lazy to do it. Even if I do an as told to book, you still have to sit down, tell all the stories, and then read it and all that. So maybe as I get closer to retirement, I'll do it. I actually have a lot of notes in my phone to help in doing it when I finally do. But it hasn't been done yet.
And when you say retirement, do you I mean, I know you've thought about it, but do you have a plan? Do you have a thought? Is it year by year?
It's year by year, and I really thought a couple of years ago that was going to be it, and then they put the pitch clock in.
Oh,
which I'd been calling for.
That's what I meant to ask
10
about.
years.
In light of the mammoth doubleheader, that was I was like, what are your thoughts on the pitch clock?
I love it. It has saved my career.
That's fantastic.
It has taken out 30 minutes of time that Matt and I used to have to fill, total dead time.
Mm-hmm.
So that now, sure, the games end earlier, they're faster. They're so much more watchable. There's so much more. I love watching the games now. I'm going to the game tonight, even though I'm not broadcasting it. I never went to a game that I wasn't broadcasting in the last few years before the pitch clock. It was so wearing us down. And now it's actually, I don't prepare as much for games because I don't have as much opportunity to weave the stories in.
Sure.
That's the one negative of it is, sometimes I want more time.
Sure. Yeah.
But overwhelmingly, I'm for the pitch clock. And with the pitch clock and doing a reduced schedule, this year I'm doing 100 games. I could foresee doing it for a while.
Good.
As long as I'm still mentally sharp enough.
Yeah.
And, my voice and my eyes are good enough. I still love the traveling. Most older guys, when they start cutting back, they don't do the traveling. I love the traveling. I love broadcasting the games from all the other parks. And, I've got restaurants and bars and music venues in all these other cities.
And friends.
And friends. It's a real joy. We stay in, super nice hotels now. We fly on a charter flight.
Right.
They take care of your luggage for you. It's the easiest possible type of travel. So as of now, I have no plan to retire. I'm going year to year.
It's awesome.
Awesome.
That's good news for Rangers fans. Man, an hour goes by quick. Eric, we appreciate you very much for coming in and chatting with us. Yeah, we had a great time. We will see all of you again tomorrow on the DLLS Rangers podcast.
We all silly like the mayor.